5x5. Dana says in the chat, good morning, everybody. My name is Bear from the internet. It is April Fool's Day, the 1st of April, 2025. Where has the year gone already? I don't know. Quite the sabbatical we've been having, isn't it? Good morning to everyone in the chat. Quick mention, thank you to everyone in the Bear Nation over the last 7 years of making content here on the YouTubes. I can't stand YouTube, but I think you're pretty cool. So thanks for your support. It's the first of the month. Q1 is over. It's Q2. Let's go. Yeah, okay. I love your enthusiasm, Dana. If you've been here for a while, you're probably well aware of the fact that this channel has been getting shadow banned for about the last 18 months or so. And so this is your monthly encouragement to go check out Patreon. The link is in the description, and it is the economic engine of what we do here in the Bear Nation. And so if you are on Patreon, it's the beginning of the month, it's the billing cycle, make sure your stuff's up to date. Okay, that's our public service announcement. I appreciate all of y'all. I'll tell you, I've been on deployment with Grindstone for the last 10 days or so. There's 10 days including travel, and so much has happened and is happening with this second Trump presidency. It's frankly hard to keep up with all of the things. And well, I like the dare I use the phrase democratization. Is that the word? Democratization? Can you even English this morning? More coffee is indicated. I like the democratization of information on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, owned by Elon and others. There is so much signals noise in what is on X. Just because there's information doesn't mean it's good information. And a lot of that is opinion, which we all have opinions. I certainly express mine here, and so nothing against that. But opinion is not fact. And oftentimes on X, it's presented as fact. And then the other thing that happens there that is just mind-numbing, it's the same premise as the show Ancient Aliens. If you've ever seen that, the Mario Tsoukalakalos guy with the crazy Medusa hair, that guy. And every show starts with ancient astronaut researchers hypothesize that it could be possible that this Roku remote was embedded in a piece of coal, carbon dated to 300,000 years old. But could this be ancient technology from the Anunnaki? Carl von Daniken, author of Chariots of the Gods, postulates that. And then they take this one supposition. Here's my point. They take this one supposition. Could it be possible? Yes, it could be possible. And then based upon the idea that it could be possible, here's an hour-long episode to say, hey, yes, this is what we think. Okay, but the base supposition is lunacy. There's a lot of that on X as well. So that being said, I was scrolling X this morning, as one would do, drinking their coffee after reading their Bible in the morning and after reading their book daily in the morning. I'm just scrolling X holding a baby. And I see a post that says words to the effect of the delete campaign, which was the FCC went to us. They asked for public comment on deregulation of the FCC and wide swaths of the bands that the FCC regulates. And that was the 12th of March, ? I don't know, a couple, 3 weeks ago, right? And there was a lot of commentary from folks like us saying, hey, just delete all this regulation, specifically relating to ham radio. Well, I've seen many a post since then postulating, will they or will they not deregulate amateur radio? and I saw a post this morning. Come with me on this wild journey. I realize I'm monologuing. Well, I'm the guy with the microphone, so I guess that's my job. One post this morning saying they did it. They have deregulated it. And I was just scrolling while holding a baby, and so I lost the post. And I don't know if it was Evan at Radio Made Easy or Not a Rubicon or I don't know, maybe PNW Gorilla. I'm not sure who it was that posted it. So I get back on X this morning trying to find it again. April Fools, I fell for it. Well, we'll see, Victory Garden. I'll take it. I don't know if it's an actual post or not, or if it is April Fools, but I'll take it. And so let's just mid-ross this out, huh? Let's hash this out. Hold on, I gotta adjust my camera. There we go. It was me on IG. It was you, Evan. How dare you? How dare you, sir? By the way, if you do know anything or don't know anything about radios and you want to know, Evan at Radio Made Easy is your guy. I make $0 telling you that. This is not a paid promotion. It's not a plug. It's not any of that. It's the fact that Evan's a really, really good guy and he knows his stuff. And one of the things that Evan will never toot his own horn about is that during Hurricane Helene, Evan provided a massive amount of radios and logistical support and key training and all kinds of parts and service out of his own pocket to assist the people and the first responders that were affected by Hurricane Helene. And he did that out of the goodness of his heart. And so those are the kinds of people we want to support in the Bear Nation. So if you need to know anything about radios or you need to get a radio, don't ask me. And I don't sell radios. Go see Evan at Radio Made Easy. He's the guy. Okay. I trust him. I trust him with our comms, and he has hooked Grindstone Ministries up. So, yeah, there you go. That being said, so the FCC did or did not deregulate ham radio. They ought to. And here's my opinion on the matter. Let's say they did. Would I still need a guy like Evan? Yeah, you would, because just because you got a radio doesn't mean you know how to use it. And so for the industry that supports amateur radio, I don't think it would be the death knell that everybody thinks that it would be. I also think, yeah, Kyle M in the chat. Ham saves lives. Indeed. Dana said, is Radio Made Easy going to do a class at Refuge again? Yeah, we're in the process of figuring out the dates and times on that. Speaking of the nerfing of this channel, there's 225,000 people here. There's 512 people in the live stream. You guys remember the good old days when we'd have 2,500, 3,000, 3,500 people on a live stream at one shot? There's our proof right there. So, the industry that supports amateur radio, I think, would be unaffected because the need for equipment, the need for training still exists. I think who would get really upset about this would be in the firearms world, they're referred to as FUDs, the old timers. And not that I want to intentionally offend the old timers, but the Federal Communications Commission regulates the bands, the bandwidth, broadcasting bandwidth. That's radio transmission. Okay. Well, when was the last time you watched television on a set of bunny ears? I don't even think you can anymore, right? You had to get that digital TV module to plug into your bunny ears in order to work with your TV. All right. So that's not really a thing anymore, right? Yeah, you got AM and FM radio. Cool. A dying art. Very few people comparatively are still consuming AM and FM radio, although their advertising rates haven't changed. So, okay. And then handheld communications, radio. Okay. Like amateur radio. The overregulation of the amateur radio has kept a lot of people like me out of it officially. I don't have a ham license. You know why I don't have a ham license? Because I don't want my name and address on a publicly searchable federal database. And I know people say, well, what do you have to hide? Well, for a guy like me, a fair bit, like personal information. It's called PERSEC, personal security, because there's people who don't like me because of what we do with Caleb House. And I'd rather not have my address publicly searchable on the internet. Um, so I really don't like that. That being said, do I know how to use a ham radio? Oh, yeah, I know how to use one, and I use it all the time in federally declared and state declared natural emergencies, which is why I'd have no conflict in this. Um, Simplex and repeater, HF. Like I've read all the books, I've done these things, and I have people who are way better at it and way smarter than me around me as part of my teams. But I don't have a but my call sign was not issued to me by the FCC. We'll put it that way. And that's one of the things also with the FUDs that and kind of the ham radio uh enthusiasts, the hardcore operators, they lead with their call sign, their government issued call sign rather than their name, even in conversation that's off amateur radio. And it seems a little we're just gonna say it. We're 12 minutes in, and we're already censored, right? It would be like a Holocaust survivor leading with the tattooed number on their arm that they got at Auschwitz-Birkenau. The government gave you a number, and you're so proud of it that that's how you identify. Come on, bro. That's so gay. Like, it's so gay. And so I think deregulation of the amateur radio bands would be great because if that art is going to survive, it needs new blood, and the new blood, like me, and make no mistake, there's more gray in my beard than there is brown anymore. The new blood, like me, is completely turned off by the old blood that's involved in the endeavor. We just don't see eye to eye on all of the gatekeeping and asking the government permission to transmit, especially in times of emergency. And I know there are special rules in times of emergency, but that doesn't mean that ham radio clubs don't try and shut you down. So the implications here from a preparedness standpoint, I think would be huge because from a preparedness standpoint, there's a lot of people who are in possession of radios, but are not in possession of approval from the government in order to key the microphone. Therefore, they don't, which means they're operating with the false sense of security because they own the equipment, but they don't possess the proficiency to use it. And the argument there would be go to Evan and learn how to use it. And I 100% agree with that. Um, but one could also make the argument, regardless of technological advancement, one cannot license a constitutional right. Okay, so First Amendment, I have freedom of speech. Well, you're licensing the freedom of my speech, which of course gets into the NFA and the Second Amendment and concealed carry and the lack of concealed carry reciprocity and permitting through the state governments and in some cases the local governments in order to simply carry a weapon, even though the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. So it's governmental overreach, even if originally when the FCC was created, it was done in order to issue licenses on certain bands so that there wasn't crosstalk. Um, so I get it, but those bands are underutilized now anyway. And then, like, why is I gotta have a license in order to do this, right? But like Walmart's business license, which should be on the business bands, they use FRS 22.462.725 as the world's largest retailer. And for them, it's just perfectly fine. Which means if you want to have some fun and you got your little handy talkie, next time you're driving by a Walmart, put in FRS 22 or 462.725, and you can monitor all of their transmissions and you can also talk to them, except they don't know that it's you that's talking to them. So every time I drive by a Walmart with my 50-watt mobile in my truck, I will get on the radio and say, Tina, it looks like somebody took a shit in aisle 13 again. And I don't know how many times the response has been literally, are you kidding me again? All right, we'll get the mop. And I love that. I just love that. I like the fact that that's something that you can do. And the ham radio purists are probably seething right now at this entire conversation. And that's okay. That's okay. There should be there's a certain barrier to entry to play this game anyway, and that's the acquisition of the equipment in order to be able to transmit, right? So, and you should know how to use the equipment, but asking the government permission to join a club full of old guys who don't want you to play their game, that's a losing proposition for the sustainment of this art in the long term. Nobody wants to do that, me included. So I think delete, delete, delete. It should be deregulated. That's my 2 cents on it. And from a preparedness standpoint, the ability to make commo and to know when to make commo, and more importantly, when not to make commo is really important. You've seen all this FPV drone footage out of Ukraine. Part of how people are targeted is emanations. If you're not emanating, if you're not pushing out signals from your location, it's much harder to find you. Much, much, much harder to find you. Walmart uses MERS most of the time. Maybe where you are, Board American, not where I am, not in the breadbasket. They are all running FRS 22. FRS 22, Rocklick Ranch, 462.725. So FPV drones, the targeting there, are there thermal? Can you upgrade drones with thermal packages? Yeah, 100%. But most drones aren't thermal capable. You got to be located first. And so a big part of how people are located is emanations. And even in the United States, there's nothing illegal about gathering emanations. So be careful if you're doing anything remotely sketchy about emanating. That being said, if you need to emanate, if you need to send a signal, you need to know how to send a signal. All right. $200 to slap a thermal on them if you don't need super high quality. Yeah, Victory Garden, it all depends on what you're doing, right? And it depends on the drone, because there's drones and then there's drones and then there's drones. Okay. There's DJI Mavics, and then there's the $5,000 to $15,000 quadcopters, and then there's MQ-9 Reapers. And these are not all the same thing. I don't know why that is so hard. You used to have to leave the phones at home. Exactly, Silverback. I've been saying that since I got on camera here. If you're gonna do sketchy stuff, leave your existential crisis rectangle at home, okay? Because it emanates all the time, whether you want it to or not. It knows more about you than you probably do. So, FCC joke of the day. Thanks, Evan. That radio made easy. FCC ham radio deregulation. Maybe it is April 1st, but I'm in support of it. I am in support of it. I like it. Have you guys seen what is happening with gold and silver here in the last 48 hours or so? No, Bear, we haven't. I'm looking at the chat. Have you seen? Have you seen? We're also going to talk about emanations here in a minute. www.google.com. Google's so bad. I know, but it's easier to type than DuckDuckGo. Boop 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 doop doo boop doop doo 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 doo. From Investopedia, gold prices hit another record high on Monday to cap off a quarter in which it gained 20%. Retail investors have flocked to gold, a traditional safe haven asset, in response to tariffs and broader economic uncertainty that has weighed on stocks in recent months. Bank of America analysts last week raised their gold price target to $3,500 an ounce, citing demand from retail investors, central banks, and Chinese insurers. Gold advanced to a record high of more than $3,100 an ounce on Monday. Blah, 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 blah. Gold futures rose 20% in the first 3 months of the year, the metal's biggest quarterly gain since 1986, according to Reuters. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Trump over the last 2 months has shaken investor confidence by sporadically announcing, delaying, diluting, and escalating trade wars with many of America's largest trade partners. The on-again, off-again approach to tariffs has also left consumers and businesses worried about the economy. I could tell you from where I'm sitting, worried about the economy is accurate. I don't listen, praise the Most High. We're not starving to death and the bills are paid. But that being said, it's not exactly feeling like the best economy ever. Which we knew. We knew this already. We knew the economy was bad under Biden. And I understand, it's gonna take time to fix things. I am a high speed of implementation person. What does that mean? It means do it now. Great idea. Do it now. And I understand it takes time to turn a battleship. I get it. And I'm trying to be really, really patient. But patience is a virtue, just not one of mine. I'm not known for being patient. I'm known for getting shit done. And so, as outsiders' perspective, viewing everything that's happening or that we've been told is happening inside of Washington, D.C., I'd like to see things moving a little bit faster. One of the things that bothers me is that Doge has said that they've uncovered, even recently, $100 billion in Social Security fraud where Democrats were knowingly, we said this for years, but they can now prove it. Democrats were knowingly importing people in the United States of America, signing them up for Social Security and disability benefits, paying them far more than what Americans were getting paid, and registering them to vote. Illegal immigrants, non-Americans, registering for them to vote. So the Democrats were using taxpayer dollars through USAID, which was funneled into NGOs. Now, where did they get that money from? It was appropriated by Congress. It was also washed through the war in Ukraine, which is why Zelensky said there's $100 billion he can't account for. Interesting that the $100 billion that Zelensky can't account for is the same number of the $100 billion that was disseminated through Social Security and Social Security disability to immigrants here to buy their votes for Democrats in the United States of America. Interesting correlation. Doesn't mean causation, but interesting correlation. All that's going on, right? And Doge is pointing all this out. They're saying, hey, look, here's what the bad guys were doing. And not a single person has been arrested. I haven't seen a single person do a perp walk yet. 0 heads are on spikes in front of the White House. We still don't have the Epstein files. We got the JFK files. Okay, except they were redacted. One particular phrase, one specific ethno-religious nation in the Middle East, those who say they are Yehudim and are not, Revelation 2:9. 2:9 or 3:9. You guys know what I'm talking about. That particular country's name was blotted out of 80,000 pages of data. Okay, but we got the JFK files. Yeah, no conclusive data in the JFK files. We still don't know about the Butler, PA shooting. The classified files on 9/11, don't have those. Remember when they said they were going to audit Fort Knox? Well, Fort Knox hasn't been audited. Is that why somebody bought $20 billion worth of gold yesterday? And that's driving gold prices up. Silver spot is $33.75. Yep, and it's retail about $37 an ounce right now from JM Bullion. And what's cool is these things right here. I got praise the Most High. I've been buying these things as my budget has allowed. For those who are on audio, this is a silver round, 1 ounce silver round, and there are many like it, but this one is mine. This one has the tree of life on it. One of y'all gave this to me. Um, but I've been buying these things as the budget has allowed on and off for the last 20 years. And it's really cool to see silver climbing, although the rumor is the price of silver is being suppressed. Um, and allegedly, China is hoovering up silver because it is undervalued at the moment. And when there's a price correction on silver, China will be holding literal tons and tons and tons of silver. So gold's jumping up, and that's super interesting to me because gold is a repository for wealth during times of economic uncertainty. Never goes to zero. There's a lot of people who are chattering right now that the housing market is going to hit zero here pretty soon. We've seen that even with tariffs and Doge cuts and all these things, it's not monetarily possible for the United States to service the interest on its national debt, and which is $37 trillion, and we still have a $2 trillion deficit. In fact, in Q1, this current Congress spent $60 billion more in Q1 of this year, even with Doge. And people will say, well, that's because the district judges are fighting Trump and his executive orders. No, it's because the Republicans are still Republicans and the Democrats are still Democrats. Okay. But I digress. This current Congress spent $60 billion more in this Q1 than they did in Q1 of last year under Biden's leadership. And the deficit, $2 trillion per year deficit, what that means is we're spending $2 trillion more than we have each year. And if you or I did that, the bank would own our stuff and we'd be homeless. You can't spend more money than you have. And we still have a government that spends more money than it has. And so that's led a lot of people to surmise that it's possible that Trump could try and reinstate the gold standard. Frankly, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, because I've seen a lot of things out of this current administration that I don't like, and at the top of the list of things that I don't like out of this current administration is the egregious bending of the knee to a particular nation state over there in the center of, well, not even the center, on the edge of the Mediterranean, that seems to be locked in battle with all of their neighbors. And yeah, you guys know who I'm talking about. All right. Well, those folks, the Khazarians, those who say they're Yehudim and are not, who founded that country? Who supported that movement? His last name was Rothschild, who has had a several hundred-year global banking empire. The Rothschilds. Who runs the Bank of London? The Rothschilds. Okay, on and on and on. So the likelihood that we will be allowed to default on our national debt by the Rothschilds and Khazarian mafia, very, very low, I think. And I think that's part of why these compromise campaigns have been ongoing by members of the Central Intelligence Agency and Mossad in order to get people to continue to vote in the way that they would like them to go. Like Epstein, like Diddy, like many others, so that they have, the bad guys, have leverage over our elected representatives. It's to perpetuate normalcy, which for them is to fleece the American taxpayer of 30, 50, 70% of their income. So I don't see it likely that we're restored to the gold standard. And there's a really interesting thing with American presidents. It's interesting that this article over here mentions 1986 was the last time that gold has had this level of quarterly gains. Last time was in 1986. Many people are unaware of the fact that Lincoln, proponent of gold and precious metals, Um, JFK, proponent of returning to the gold standard. Ronald Reagan, proponent of returning to the gold standard. Do any of these people have anything in common? Lincoln, John F. Kennedy Jr., Ronald Reagan. Are you seeing a thread here? Trump hinted at returning to the gold standard, and two different people tried to delete him. Now, I still think that there's a lot of splaining to do relative to the two different people that tried to delete Mr. Trump. The Butler, PA guy got shot in the head and he's dead. And then, magically his apartment just happened to get swept, and he may or may not, as a poor kid with no money who allegedly gained access to his father's air quote assault rifle, also had 4 cell phones. Super interesting. Yeah, and all those cell phones were tied back to known operators in the Washington D.C. metro area. Super interesting. And then the second guy, this who had an SKS with a duct tape scope on top of it. Yeah, the Butler, PA guy was at the range with FBI agents 11 times in 2 years. Interesting, Matt Bayer. Super interesting. Um, And then the second guy at the Mar-a-Lago shooter, the golf course shooter guy with the duct taped, kaleidoscope on top of an SKS. Sure haven't heard a lot about that guy, except he had, I think it was 5 cell phones on him, a couple of which had been tracked to the building next door to the FBI headquarters. It's like, it's just really sloppy tradecraft. Like, if we're gonna live in a pretend world, they should at least pretend a little bit harder. You know what I mean? Like, try and perpetuate the mystique a little bit better. Okay. But seriously, I don't know. What did Lincoln, JFK, and Reagan have in common? They all got lead poisoning. Now, Reagan did not succumb to his lead poisoning, but he certainly got the message, because there was no chatter about returning to the gold standard after that, was there? So I bring all this up because tomorrow, April the 2nd, the White House is supposed to be making some large disclosure. This coming from Daily Mail. White House officials are quietly freaking out about Trump's upcoming Liberation Day tariff announcement. The mood inside the White House is verging on panic, with just days to go before Donald Trump's Liberation Day of April the 2nd. Trump is expected to unveil sweeping new tariffs on America's global trading partners, but those tasked with implementing his agenda admit they're uncertain. Behind closed doors, top administration officials are deeply concerned, with many quietly admitting they're unsure what the president is actually going to do. Quote, "No one knows what the F is going on," end quote. One White House ally close to Trump's inner circle told Politico. It's interesting that one would paint themselves as a White House ally and also be talking to Politico. But sure, bro. Sure, whatever you're into. From the vice president to the cabinet, from financial markets to foreign capitals, the Trump administration's aggressive new tariff push is triggering anxieties on a global scale, with even Trump's staunchest allies are bracing for chaotic rollout. The president has signaled that more than $1 trillion in trade could be affected. But with less than a week to go, aka tomorrow, even the most basic details, including which countries will be hit at what rates and for which goods, remain undecided or constantly shifting. White House officials have spent the past several weeks privately assuring business leaders, financial executives, and Republican lawmakers that a clearer, more stable trade agenda is covering. One goal is to calm markets rattled by previous tariff announcements that has caused the S&P 500s to shed all gains made since November's election day. And there's more blah, 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 and super interesting pictures. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I don't and the reason I bring that up is, again, back to the chatter. There's a lot of people saying tomorrow is the day that Trump is going to announce a national jubilee. He's going to erase the national debt, and he's going to return us to the gold standard. I don't think that's going to happen. Could it happen? Sure. Would I like that to happen? I think that'd be super cool. Um, I think it'd be super cool if we had a national jubilee, erase the national debt, and got everything back on the gold standard. Would it be economic chaos in the short term? Yeah. Yep, it would. Here's the thing. At our current rate of spending, you erase the national debt. At our current rate of spending, we'd have the same exact national debt in 19 years at our current rate of spending. So you just kick the can down the road for 19 years? No, you got to get rid of the people who created the debt in the first place. And to that point, Southern Reporter said erase all of our debt. Yeah. If we're going to erase the federal debt, we should erase everybody's debt. Now, on the flip side, let your yes be yes and your no be no. If, like we talked about this with student loans back in the day, when Biden defied a Supreme Court of the United States of America ruling in order to do this, which is interesting because that sets a precedent for the current president to defy other SCOTUS rulings as they come up that we don't necessarily, or they don't necessarily agree with. How interesting. It makes one wonder, okay, so defying different rabbit hole, ADHD brain, defying a Supreme Court ruling, what's the enforcement mechanism for that? So you got 9 old people that are upset with you and the media makes hay out of it for a few days, and then what happens? Nothing. So without an enforcement arm, is the judicial branch going to arrest the chief in the executive branch? Because if the answer to that's no, then what does it matter? All right. It's all hammer and no anvil. There's no forcing mechanism there. So in any event, let your yes be yes and your no be no. If you took a student loan for an education, you signed your name on the dotted line, that's your debt. You agreed to that, or you bought a house, or you bought a car, or you whatever. I get that. Listen, you agreed to do that. That's your responsibility, not mine. And where it gets tricksy is when certain people and certain segments are bailed out with taxpayer money. I don't like that at all because now we're taking money out of my pocket to pay somebody else's debt. And I can do that willingly. It's called charity, tzedakah. That's good. It's good if I do it willingly. But making me do it at the point of a gun is a function of the IRS. That's not good. I don't like that. That's unrighteous. It's unlawful. I do not believe the Father smiles upon that. And I don't need the government to be the mechanism by which my charity is expressed. I need the government to get the hell out of the way and not tax me at 30, 50, 70% of my income so that I have the excess revenue for tzedakah, for charity, to be good to people, because I'm biblically commanded to forsake not the widow and the orphan. I'm not biblically commanded to forsake not the person who signed their name on the dotted line to take a student loan for underwater basket weaving and now can't find a job. That's nowhere in the Bible. Okay. It does say, let none amongst you be poor. Okay, cool. But define poor. I think poor is a moving target in 2025. And there's a double-edged sword with that. Let none amongst you be poor. Well, if you take we'll say Bill over here in the corner, Bill's amassed $1 billion in personal wealth. Good job, Bill. That's amazing. Cool. But if we all take Bill's $1 billion and redistribute it, now Bill's poor. And so let none amongst you be poor, like many of the commands, is a double-edged sword. We can't just take Bill's stuff. That's communism. But Bill can give willingly if he would like to. So you see the rub here. So anyway, forgiveness of debt. In certain cases, we all agreed whatever debt you have, you had to explicitly agree to acquire that debt. There's no implicit acquisition of debt. You have to sign your name on a piece of paper in order to get that debt. So we all agreed to that, comma, the terms of this debt that we acquired, one could argue the flip side is, yes, when I took this debt, let's say you acquired a debt in 2000 and it's now 2025. The repayment of that debt was predicated upon the economic situation in 2000 and the value of the US dollar in 2000, not the economic situation and the value of the US dollar in 2025. But if we all had gold and silver, could be a different thing. And many people will say, XRP, Bitcoin, blockchain, that maybe. Here's the thing I don't like about that. Again, from a preparedness standpoint, go lay your hands on a Bitcoin. Use that to buy a sheep when an EMP happens, or a coronal mass ejection, or a polar shift, or hell, after a tornado or a hurricane. It don't work because if the pixies aren't dancing down the copper line, if there's no electrons moving, your XRP is now $0 in value. And if we have a Carrington type event or similar that fries no, Bear, they've hardened all the computers. No, they hardened your computers, which means your crypto wallet, if it still exists, it didn't get fried in the Carrington event 2.0, is on their system, not yours. No, the blockchain's been hardened. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I'd be very careful betting your financial future on a hardened blockchain. My 2 cents, my opinion. All that being said, if money sounded like this, we have fewer of those problems. So I don't think we're going to get a reset of the national debt. I don't think we're going to get a reset of our personal debt. I don't think we're going to get a restoration of the US dollar back to the gold standard. We also have not had this touted audit of the Federal Reserve. I think we should have that, but it is very interesting that somebody yesterday bought $20 billion worth of gold. And as a result, gold is going through the roof in value. Now, it's still undervalued, and silver is very undervalued. Historically, silver trades at 1/7 to 1/10 the value of gold. So right now, spot on silver is $33.75 or something to that effect. Gold's at $3,100 an ounce. So 1/10 of 3,100 is $310 an ounce, which means that silver is, at 100 to 1 more or less, somewhere in that range, 98 to 1, 97 to 1, rather than 10 to 1, which has been throughout antiquity. The value of silver has been 1/10 that of gold. So not that I'm hedging my bets on any of this, but I'd be super happy if silver corrected to where it's supposed to be historically. It's being artificially suppressed right now. So we'll see what happens with that. I also have a written brief on the Signal app debacle. If you guys want to get on into that, I'm looking at the chat over there. Don. Look up Carrington event 1800. Something that happened, it'll happen again. Gold will be at $400, $4,000 an ounce soon, and when it gets to 5,000, it'll be Mad Max time. We'll see. Dana, yes. Good morning, Katie Lynn. Shalom, sister. All right, so you guys want to do the Signal? Okay, cool. So this posted on Patreon yesterday in written brief form. Quick plug for Patreon. Again, that is our part of our alternate channel for when this channel gets taken down on YouTube. Already have 2 channel strikes, and it serves as the economic engine of the Bear Nation. It's $10 a month, and there's 5,000 exclusive pieces of content there. Okay, like they've never seen the light of day on YouTube. All kinds of good instruction. All the deep stuff is over on Patreon, and so including the written briefs. So whether my face makes it onto the internet or not, these written briefs are posting Monday, Wednesday, Friday, regardless of where I am in the world, regardless of what I'm doing. If I'm in southeastern Mississippi with a chainsaw with a 6-foot bar on it, dealing with storm damage, the written briefs are still posting. It's part of the value on Patreon. To say nothing of the Bear Independent Discord. Link is in the description. Go check that out. It's the beginning of the month. If you were signed up on Patreon, have been signed up on Patreon, please make sure that your billing information is updated because there's a certain amount of churn at the end of every month simply because your card expired or something like that. Written brief, and I have thoughts on this Signal thing. The secure messaging apps on your phone might not be as secure as you think, not because they've been compromised by hackers, but because their effectiveness depends entirely on how you use them. Millions of smartphone users make simple mistakes that leave their communications vulnerable. In fact, just recently, this point was proven by some of the highest officials in the land when Trump administration officials accidentally added Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg to a Signal group discussing military strikes against Yemen's Houthi militia. By the way, Mr. No New Wars, it appears that we're going to go to war with Iran. We've got 5 B-2s stationed in Diego Garcia. Some people have said as many as 9 B-2s. We have approximately 20 total on planet Earth, so 9 would be a huge number, but 5 is still a huge number. That's a quarter of our entire force there. S2 Underground has had some really good reporting on this and everything else. So if you're not subscribed to S2 Underground, you should be. And S2 is cool. S2 helped Grindstone on the Intel side of things in our Intel shop during Hurricane Helene, because there were so many moving parts with Hurricane Helene. That's another person right there that's never going to toot their own horn on the value that they bring, but they bring a ton of value, like a ton of value. And they have helped us personally be the hands and feet of the Most High to, forsake not the widow and the orphan, and to love our neighbor as ourselves when deployed with Grindstone. So shout out to S2. That being said, Mr. No New Wars, why there's so many big planes that blow things up over there headed towards the Middle East then? So a lot of love in this for S2 in the chat right now. I see that. That's awesome. I don't watch a ton of media every day, but I do listen to S2 most days. His briefs are very, very good and succinct, unlike mine, which are mediocre at best and are not succinct. They are long, and that's okay. Because you get a little bit more color, a little bit more flair. You definitely get my opinion and my take on these things as we're talking. So Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg was added to a Signal group chat that's discussing military strikes against Yemen's Houthi militia. The scandalous high-profile breach of operational security that followed revealed not just the administration's war plans, but also the fundamental misunderstanding many have about digital security. The NSA has previously warned about these risks. That warning had come last month after Google's threat intelligence group discovered how Russia's GRU tricked Ukrainian officials into opening access to their Signal accounts. It's key to note that this was not a flaw in the app itself. Signal was actually functioning exactly as designed, but the vulnerability existed in how people used it. It's important to note that this applies whether or not one uses Signal. In fact, Google warned, quote, "This threat also extends to other popular messaging applications such as WhatsApp and Telegram," end quote. What Google didn't mention is that it has been known widely, at least in the OSINT world, aka available to us if you just do a little bit of digging, widely for at least half a decade, that both the CIA and the NSA have known backdoors into Signal. No, not just, oops, I added the wrong person to a chat, because that is operator error, 100%. But they have known backdoors. Like, they can get into the app and see everything that's happening on that app, the CIA and NSA. Which gets back to, if you're going to do any sketchy stuff, don't talk about it near your existential crisis rectangle. Don't bring your existential crisis rectangle with you when you go do it. Don't be chatting about it in your Signal app or your WhatsApp or your Telegram or your iMessage. None of that. None of that. Face to face. This is like operational security for preparedness-minded individuals. You don't talk about it near anything that runs on electricity at all. Don't do it. How many times have you just been talking to somebody about something that you've never searched for on your phone before, And then you get on Facebook or Instagram and it's all ads for that thing. It's crazy. It's like they knew. They do know. They are listening. This phone takes a photograph, a picture, every 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds, even in the dark. Watch this thing under nods. You ever seen an iPhone under nods? It blinks with an infrared blinker every 5 seconds because it's taking a pic every 5 seconds. Okay. You can't even think things I know I do, then it pops up. Yeah, exactly, Jennifer Lowe. Even if you're just thinking about it. Okay. This is Goliath's sword. Okay. You can use it to persecute the people of Elohim, or you can use it to cut the head off the giant. It's up to you. This is Goliath's sword. You should treat it that way. This is Goliath's sword. Okay. Oh, yeah. Remember the beepers. How interesting that Bibi Netanyahu gave Trump a golden pager and J.D. Vance a silver pager. That's a warning. That's a warning. It's not a ha-ha, funny. It's a warning. So Signal and all these other apps have known backdoors from the intelligence agencies into the app itself. So you need to know that. Be careful what you discuss on these things. Okay. 2 key features present particular risks: linked devices and group links. Linked devices allow synchronization across multiple devices. Like I got it on my phone and my tablet and my laptop and my, same app, all these different devices. While group links simplify adding new members to chats. Both make these apps more convenient, but significantly less secure if mishandled. Foreign Policy further elaborated on the vulnerability, saying, quote, an entire industry of spyware companies sells capabilities to remotely hack smartphones for any country willing to pay. Yep. Yes, they do. And the whole, well, my iPhone iOS 13.1-3 MLF blah, blah, blah can't be cracked. Bull shiza. Yes, it can. There is a machine. You know what? Don't worry about it. There is a machine. That's all you need to know. There is a machine. Well, not just anyone can get that machine. Bro, if they have the correct amount of funds, just about anyone can get that machine. Simple as that. Now, here's the thing. Once it's cracked, you have to have somebody who knows how to read the chicken scratch to turn the data back into information. And that's far harder to do than simply breaking the thing. But with advancements in artificial intelligence, which is untrustworthy, by the way, and all of these different AI search engines, bots, whatever, all of them have been found lying to the users and the creators of the AI. All of them lying. They have a deception test, and on average, they fail the deception test 4 or 5 times out of 7. Meaning, you got to ask it to be honest 7 times in order to get it to tell you the truth. That should scare the crap out of everyone. Okay. Yes, Mark, there are demons in the AI. It is not truthful. They are not truthful. But with the advancements in artificial intelligence, making sense of the chicken scratch is far easier than it has been in the past. Data analysts, like real data analysts, are the actual unlock here. So it's easy to break a phone. Breaking a phone is just a function of revenue. If you have enough revenue, you can break a phone. Knowing what was on it when you break it, that's a whole nother thing. Both of these apps, both make these apps more convenient, but significantly less secure if mishandled. Foreign Policy further elaborated on the vulnerability, saying, quote, an entire industry of spyware companies sells capabilities to remotely hack smartphones for any country willing to pay. True. End-to-end encryption only protects content during transmission, aka an emanation. Your messages remain vulnerable at both endpoints, that is, on your device and on the recipient's device. If either phone is compromised, if someone saves the content, or if the wrong person joins the chat, your security is compromised, regardless of encryption. To protect yourself, regularly check your linked devices settings in both Signal and WhatsApp. Unlink any device you don't recognize, and periodically unlink and relink browser connections. For group chats, disable group links in Signal when possible, and in WhatsApp, set sensitive groups so only administrators can add members. That's a thing. We use Signal for some of our professional communications inside of the enterprise. And even then, nothing that is sensitive is set on there. It's the not worth the squeeze, man. The juice is not worth the squeeze. And we have administrators on these chats. So only an admin, meaning somebody that I know personally and that I trust, can add people. The NSA has recommended additional security measures, which are set and regularly change your app PIN. Oh, by the way, VPNs, if you're not VPNing now, like, it's 2025, y'all. Get a VPN. Enable screen lock protection and avoid sharing contact or status information outside of your trusted circle. I got to tell you guys this. I just have to say this. Probably not y'all, but way too many people do this on Facebook. And I'll give you an example. There's a lady that I used to go to church with in North Texas. Okay. I have nothing against this lady. In fact, I think she's awesome. Love her whole family. But she posted a pic and a post about her daughter, who had just been, and the post was a congratulatory post about, my daughter got accepted to this college. Great. Several pictures and a little write-up. There's enough information in that post. And her daughter is if I was a bad guy and I wanted to, if I had a shopping list for people to traffic, her daughter would make the list. Beautiful young lady. There's enough information in that post for me to know what school she's going to, her height, her age, her weight, her physical description, the location of that school, what classes she's going to be in, when she's going to be there. And I can infer from doing just a little bit of OSINT on the school where the dorm is going to be that she's going to be living in, what vehicle she drives, the fact that she's going to be that far away from her parents' house, which means she's not going to have much of a support structure, which makes her even more vulnerable, which is then just a matter of locating, identifying, establishing a pattern of life. And next thing you know, that kid's in a van. From one Facebook post, you guys are giving away way too much information. Way too much information. Way too much information. And there was no, like, this woman who made this post that was not her intention. That was not her aim. But she's oblivious to personal security, operational security, and OSINT, open source intelligence. It's a whole thing, man. It is one of the calculated risks that I take with y'all every day when I come on here. For me, the juice is worth the squeeze. I want to be able to interact with y'all. I want to be able to leave you guys a little bit better than when you came, give you a little bit of insight information, maybe a little bit of entertainment, have a good conversation. It's a risk that I am willing to assume. And frankly, I've already assumed. I'm already here. Might as well go with it. Cool. But for the rest of y'all, and as a result, that's a 12 gauge. And that's a Bravo Company 556 right there. And this is a very interesting drawer in this desk right here. And there's a gun on my hip, and there's a gun on the porch, and there's men with guns surrounding. And that's not hyperbole. There are men with guns surrounding my property. because some weirdos have showed up here at bear camp threatening, and that's not cool. And it gets old, like having to point guns in people's faces and make them go away. So don't just give away information on the internet, okay? Especially Facebook and Instagram, because analyzing images, image analyzation, image intelligence. Not only are people good at it, but artificial intelligence is great at it. I'd be really, 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 really careful with what you give away on the internet. Okay? Okay. XP is a bot. I don't see XP. Oh, I see XP now. Whatever. Do. Boo, 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 boo. For maximum security, though, it's certainly inconvenient. You can maintain a separate app and phone contacts. Or for maximum security, you could have burner phones. That's a thing to think about. This recent fumble with Signal has sparked concern, outrage, and intense debate. Some are arguing for greater transparency, while others focus more on the incompetency of the breach itself. Meanwhile, the administration has launched investigations into the incident and criticized Goldberg and The Atlantic for publishing details of the chat, calling it a witch hunt. Now, Dana can be my witness on this because we were in Mississippi driving back from the job site one evening, and we were listening to Andy Frisella, Real AF, talking about this Signal chat leak. And I paused the podcast and I said, this is an intentional dissemination. So I didn't say that to y'all because I was busy cutting trees in Mississippi, but I'm saying it now. This was an intentional dissemination. The information that was in that Signal chat, none of it was classified. None of it there's not enough information in that chat to make or break anyone's operations or activities. This was done intentionally, I think, to build rapport with the American people and to show, first of all, the rule number one of rapport, one of us, one of us, one of us. Hey, look, they're just like us. They're using American flag emojis and bomb emojis and ha, ha, ha. And I think to create the optic of insight into the decision-making process of the point-counterpoint argument back and forth among members of Trump's cabinet and his administration to decide to go into Yemen and do these things. This was an intentional dissemination to gain MAGA support for operations in Yemen. That's why heads haven't rolled over this. So that's what I think happened there. And I would look for more of that, not necessarily Signal leaks, but more of that narrative of look at us. We're discussing foreign policy and we're doing things like Americans. We love America. Look at all my American flag emojis, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I think happened there. It was just not even poorly executed. It was just an executed dissemination in order to gain rapport with the American people. The end. Signal's not secure. That's something that we should all know. Doesn't mean don't use it. Just be careful how you use it. Well, Bear, that's easy to say. You have a cell phone? Because that cell phone is not secure either, and you use it all the time. You're probably using it right now to listen to this brief. Okay? So that's the show for today. I appreciate y'all very much. The links to all the cool stuff is down below. Thank you to everybody who has supported Grindstone Ministries on our most recent deployment to Mississippi. We have some more. It's storm season. We have more severe weather coming in, depending on where you live, this evening through Thursday. So what do they say? Be weather aware. Is that something Ryan Hall says? I think so. We all hyperfixate from a preparedness standpoint on the big things like economic collapse and war with Russia and blah, blah, blah. You need a severe weather plan hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding, fire. I gotta go now. You need one of those plans, okay? Because you may have to go right now. So I would just, kick the tires, make sure you got the stuff in your go bag that you need to have. Make sure there's fuel in the vehicle, your radio is charged. Talk to a friend, say, hey, if things get weird, can I come to your house? I'd do that over the next few days. And wherever the Father sends us, Grindstone Ministries will go there next when needed. CalebHouse.org, man, you guys know the drill. Counter trafficking out there, getting it done, and gotten some very good news in the recent past about ongoing Caleb House operations that I'm not at liberty to discuss with you yet, but your prayers and your support are greatly appreciated. The team is out there doing the things. JC Fixer, maybe get some refuge gear. You could do that too. If you want American-made first aid kits, the best on planet Earth, refugemedical.com. And with that, I love you guys. Oh, there's swag at bearindependent.com as well. My wife always wants me to tell you guys that. Like, there's like t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, blah, blah, blah. All the blah, blah, blahs. And do me a favor, please share the show. We know organically the show is not growing. People are unsubscribed from this channel every day. We're nerfed on YouTube when it comes to views. So one of the ways we can get around that is by sharing the show with people that we love. And like I said, the primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. The primary here is this channel that we're watching. The alternate is the YouTube channel Blue Collar President. That's my alternate channel. The contingency functionally is Patreon, although I put more effort into Patreon than I do into YouTube. So it's like a whole separate thing over there, but it's also used for contingency communications with y'all. And then emergency is Rumble. And we've had content on Rumble for 2 years. It's not performing. It's never performed. We'll see if it continues to perform in the future, but it's over there. And you can also sign up for the email blast at bearindependent.com. We do communicate that way. How much will a big portable wood mill cost to cut that big log? I haven't found a bandsaw mill big enough to cut it yet, but a chainsaw mill to be able to cut it about $2,400 with all the bells and whistles. And that big log, sister, is the smallest log that we brought home. That big log is the smallest log that we brought home. There's some monsters out there. I mean, there's a year's salary in 2 logs. There's 2 logs that are in the process of coming home, that there's a year's salary wrapped up in those 2 logs. So, yeah. And I repeat, that's a ton of cutting boards. JS Genesis Designs. I'll tell you what, when I have some cutoffs from milling, I'll let you know. So, Rick S. said ball caps available at Refuge Medical right now. Are they? I had no idea. I genuinely didn't know. www.refugemedical.com. Oh, Mother's Day giveaway. Hey guys, there's a Mother's Day giveaway going on. Let me hit the new tab. Oh, the mag bag in green. I didn't know. USA made ball caps as well. How awesome. Awesome. Good job, Refuge team. I've been out of the loop for 2 weeks. I've been doing chainsaw stuff in the disaster zone. It's very cool. Okay. Well, with that, I love you guys. Share the show. Make sure you're subscribed. And I will see you when I see you. Shalom.